2024 Recycling Market Development Board meeting to order. Welcome. And the first order of business will be consideration and approval of the January 27th.
Go ahead and do the virtual attendance housekeeping.
You need to jump in there.
I know. I did. I just jumped in there.
It doesn't say anything on my cheat.
It does. Convenient and welcome virtual attendance housekeeping. I put it on your cheat sheet.
You didn't highlight that.
Oh, I didn't.
Deanna, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you online, I am Deanna Garner, Recycling Market Development Program Manager for Items Office of Program Support. All microphones are currently muted. For attendance tracking, please take a moment to write your name and affiliation in the chat box. We will be taking questions and comments from participants at today's meeting. All participants will be able to unmute themselves and ask questions or make comments at the appropriate times. If you have a question or technical issue during the meeting, please use the raise hand or chat features. If any member of the media have joined us, please utilize the chat feature or email media@idem.in.gov if you have any questions or would like to schedule an interview. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on IDEM's website at recycle.in.gov. And with that, I will turn the meeting back over to you, our chair, Bruce Burrow.
Thank you, Deanna. Now we will proceed with consideration and approval of the January 25th meeting transcripts and summary. If everyone had the opportunity to review the transcript, if so, do I have a motion to approve? Have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Guerin, second by Mr. Lutz. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next on the agenda is IDEM Office of Program Support update. Mr. Woodridge.
Morning, everybody. Got quite a few little updates here for you. Our Office of Program Support in Indianapolis, our office space, we have moved into the south building of the Indiana Government Center till probably late next year. Renovations have started in the IDEM main offices downtown in the Government Center North building. So we had to move to the south building because we are the first to move out and probably second to last to move back in, since we're moving from the 13th floor to the 11th floor. So they had to find us some space where we could stay for a while and not have to move around multiple times during the next year and a half. So we're getting settled in our new space. We miss our windows because we're in the basement. For sure. A lot of staff changes happening in OPS. Most importantly, we have a new leadership team in our Northwest Regional Office in Valparaiso. We have a new director of that office, Michelle Murday. She was our compliance and technical assistance staff person. So she was promoted. So now we're trying to backfill the CTAP position in that office. And now we also have a new deputy director in that office, Charles Breitenfeld. He also came from within the office. He was our hazardous waste inspector, Office of Land Quality. So we filled those 2 vacancies and created 2 more. So we're also going to be looking for a new hazardous waste inspector out of that office. We have been trying to fill our small business regulatory reporting in our CTAP team and Office of Program Support. And so we finally got that filled. Samantha Nunnery started in that role just last week. So we're really excited to have her on board. She came from our Office of Land Quality enforcement section. So we're excited to have that position filled because we've got some exciting new work for that position. And then we also had a couple of other CTAP vacancies. We had several people take internal promotions within the agency recently, so out of our CTAP team. So We hired Leanne Harvey recently, also from the Office of Land Quality Hazardous Waste Compliance, into the CTAP team. We're really glad to have her on board. She's got about 28 years of environmental experience in the private sector and then about 3 years in hazardous waste compliance with IDEM. So she brings a lot of multimedia knowledge and experience to the table for the team, so that we're really excited to have her on board. And then in our Southwest Regional Office, we had a vacancy in our CTAP position there due to a promotion. So we have a air inspector that's formerly in the CTAP position, is now coming back to that position after being in the Office of Air Quality for about 5 years. So we're excited to have her back. She also brings a lot of multimedia experience and probably 25 years of environmental knowledge and experience to the team. And then finally, we have in Pat Daniel's section, we have a quality assurance position that has been vacant a couple times in the last year and a half. So it was vacated again due to the staff person getting an internal promotion to an engineering position. So Pat just extended an offer to somebody, so we're working on trying to fill that. And then finally, we had a pollution prevention position in our office that was vacated about a month ago, and we're in the process of interviewing and trying to find somebody to fill that. So lots of staff changes at the moment for our office, but you know, a lot of them are thankfully due to folks staying within the agency and just moving around and taking promotional opportunities. And also our education and outreach coordinator is going to be leaving our office, so we're going to have another vacancy to fill. She's also staying with the agency. She's going back to Office of Water Quality Enforcement to be a section chief there, which is where we stole her from the beginning. So. But she's been so good in that position, so hopefully we'll find somebody equally as good to fill that role. Couple of other updates on one more staff update. Actually, I think I mentioned we were trying to get a technology position created in our office. We were able to get that created and filled, and we've had Alan Minnie in that position for, well, pretty much at the beginning of the year. It's really been a huge benefit to our office, like even with our office move, just helping get everybody connected in the new space and get up and running really quickly was super helpful to have him in place. And so he's going to be doing a lot of our GIS mapping for any of our program needs. SharePoint Teams, we have a couple of Microsoft Dynamics databases that we haven't had the ability to do a lot of good support. It's been sort of a hodgepodge of our CTAP staff trying to fill in the gaps on technology and trying to do their regular CTAP job, but also trying to be tech savvy and help their fellow staff members with some issues and work with our internal IT team. So we're excited to have him on board. He's also going to be really helpful with just helping our staff with technology challenges or issues, and some training too. So, and in general, at IDEM, I think I've mentioned before that we have a training director now. She's really been phenomenal. I mean, what she has been able to do so far in less than a year that she's been with us is pretty amazing. She's centralizing all of our training. She's getting ready to add another staff person to work with her to help actually finally implement a lot of the planning that she's been doing on putting together leadership and development for staff, for new staff. I mean, we've had a lot of turnover in our office, and I've heard that from our new folks that, you know, we need to do a better job of, you know, not just sort of letting them stumble around in the dark and figure it out, which is what I did when I was at DNR too. So, so we're really excited to have her on board, and we're making a lot of progress there. And then finally, I think we've mentioned our firefighting foam collection project. We are getting kind of to the end of that. We do still have approximately $300,000 left of the 1.5 million that was that we started with. And so far to date, we've collected 37,184 gallons of the PFAS firefighting foam. So we're really excited about the progress we made on that. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things I could update on, but I think I'll leave it there.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Carl?
Nope.
Okay, next we'll move on to Ms. Garner. She will give us a status update on existing grants.
Yeah, thank you. So going back, we do have grants, running from fiscal year 22 through current. Fiscal year 22 was the +5, now Revive that we renewed. So they're just moving forward on their project. And there was one that I am just now about to expire in May. Revolution JAGCOR, I had extended theirs for another year last year when they had told me that they weren't able to probably move forward with the project just due to changes in business. But they had floated some ideas of transitioning the project another direction that might meet the same scope of work. So I went ahead and had extended it a year. At this time, they have not moved forward with any projects at all. So that one will close out without them getting any of the funding. Fiscal year 23, we have 2 left. One's just a site visit to ERI, and that one will be closed out. And then Petoskey Plastics did get extended another 6 months. They had some mostly supply chain delays in getting equipment delivered and installed. Some reworking of the placement of their equipment and other things as well to make that project work. For fiscal year 24 that we awarded last October, those are all executed with the exception of one that Indiana Shingle Recycling had some outstanding issues with the Department of Revenue that they had to get cleared up. So there's been some delays, but that now is clear and ready to get executed as well. So those are our current status updates. I also wanted to provide another grantee, and I invited Knox County Solid Waste Management District here to present about their project. They just wrapped up their grant as well. So I think Michelle and I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. Mike, that's it. If you guys want to come up and share your grant project with the board, how much you were awarded and what you're able to do with it, and I'll pull up your slides.
We'll bring some swag. So, well, not really swag, but part of the grant money did help us do some advertising and education. So I brought some samples of some of those things. Yeah. Yeah. The magnets were a big hit. I'm gonna have to get some.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's, do I need to, is there a way to?
I think.
See, I don't know Google
I
Slides.
know, my daughter was like, use Google Slides to click on slides. She's like, it's so
I've
easy,
never
Mom,
used
and then
Google
it took
Slides
me, yeah,
before.
way longer than it should have, so, forgive the simplicity of these slides, there's not a lot of magic happening. So, yeah, my name is Michelle Smith, I'm the director in Knox County, I guess you guys know that, and a lot has happened, since I was here last, so, we are just forever grateful for you guys, awarding us this grant. We were awarded, it was about, I don't know the exact number, it was 154,000 some change. We did come in under budget. We did have to make some sacrifices on a few things. Once we got in there, we actually did have a baler that was gifted to us. So we didn't need to purchase a second baler. We only purchased one. So a few little things like that. But I think we got close, but we were under a little bit. So, but it wouldn't have been possible without you guys. So we really appreciate it. So the first little bit of this, and I guess I need to introduce, this is Mike McKiska. He's my operations manager. None of it would happen without Mike. So he's going to talk to you about the operation side of things here in a little bit. And then I think you just have to either hit the space bar or the little arrow. make it go. So, this one's a little bit cheesy, but I had to really search to find this on the Google, but I did find it. And so the end here is, you know, our ribbon cutting. We had a grand celebration for America Recycles Day on November 15th. We had a great turnout. I know Deanna came down and some other folks came from IDEM. We had a good representation, and Debbie was there, and it was a good time. So, next one, please. So I'm going to give you kind of a rundown of where we started to show you so that you can fully appreciate how far we've come. This is where we started. We had parking lot recycling events. Our first one was like a one-time deal. This was during COVID, everybody's wearing masks. And then once we moved to our new location, we started off with a container in our parking lot, and we were there once a month, and then we graduated to once a week in the parking lot. And so that's where we started. And then that was in 22.
Yeah, 22.
20, yeah. We, I think maybe you missed the
Did
slide
it go
before.
to?
I think it went to, just,
Yes.
there you go. So in 21, we were able to purchase this building. It took a mortgage and whatever little money we had saved up to get into this building, but it was ours, and we were super excited about the possibilities. And so we knew that just to get in the building was going to take a lot of work. So the next slide shows just a little snippet. This is what it looked like. There was no working HVAC at all, no working plumbing at all. So we purchased the building in August of 21, and we weren't able to move in until, well, we moved everything over the last week of that year, but we didn't actually get into the building until 22, once we had heat and running water. So then we moved in. It looked a lot like this. And so then we moved around to the outside of the building. It's a little rough around the edges. This building had been vacant for quite some time. And so it took a little bit of effort to get it to looking like what it does today. So, all right. So the whole process really created this whole environment in Knox County of recycling awareness, because we all know Indiana is a little slow, but on the recycling side of things. But in Knox County, where it's so rural, we're even farther behind. So this was huge for us in Knox County, because for so long we didn't have any recycling opportunities other than what we provided, which was in the parking lot, or we did have a rural drop-off, a couple of rural drop-off sites. So the local newspapers, radio stations, news stations came and interviewed, and but the whole process. So that was really good. Everybody was anticipating and anxiously awaiting what was to come. So the first project that they did, they showed up, and the grant money helped us get this going. So you saw how disarray it was before. The whole parking lot was covered in grass and a little bit of gravel. So the first project they did was to create a driveway for semi trucks to come in and load out our recycling. The existing dock stopped at the end of the building. So there's not a lot of space to get a truck in there, turn around, all of that. And so this needed to happen so that we could access the dock that was to come. So they graded it all, and there was not a lot of drainage. So this looked like a swamp or a pond, usually when it rained, waiting water to get into the building. So, and then this is the new driveway. So we actually made it a little bit wider. This is the dock, the new dock that sticks out here away from the building. We actually came out 40 feet. And we made it a little bit wider here because our end goal is to get a compactor to stick here at this side. So we knew that we didn't want to have gravel. We needed it to be stable for trucks to come in and out for that traffic. So. This is another a picture of what the lot looked like. And we did have the whole area regraded, and we used asphalt millings. The city of Vincennes was just happened to be repaving a lot of the roads. And so they donated all their asphalt millings to us. So we didn't have to have that expense. And so those worked really, really well. I think the next slide is the finished product. So that new dock and driveway is here. And then we just kind of did the asphalt millings this way out into the parking lot and then down the opposite side of the building for the exit out of our drive-through recycling. And this is our dock. This is when we moved in. So we said it was the loading dock for tree huggers because it was growing trees. And so those trees unfortunately caused a lot of damage and cracks in the dock. And we were hopeful that they'd be able to salvage it, but once they got in there, they decided the integrity of the dock was not going to last. So they said, you know, we can kind of patch it and work on it, but it'll only last you maybe 10 years or so. So it's better to just replace it. And so the grant allowed us to kind of make that adjustment. So that worked out really well. Originally, we were going to just do this extension. So yeah, the original dock stopped flush with the building and it made it really difficult, you know, to do any kind of loading and unloading. So this is sort of the extended, we're getting ready to pour. They actually dug up the whole other dock and they re-poured the whole thing. And then this is the extended part with our safety rails. And there is, you can see the concrete driveway there on the end. So this is how it started. And this was after we cut down the trees. So we did get rid of the trees initially. And then it kind of sat for a few months and, yeah, that's what it started. We had a really good crew, there to help us. And this is the hydraulic dock leveler plate that we also had installed, that the grant helped us get. And then here's just the other angle. So you can see from the extension of the dock levelers there at the gate, obviously, where the chain is, and then the dock goes all the way down. So that's a lot of concrete. You know, concrete's very expensive. So, yeah, it took a while. And then here's just another view of what we started with versus how it looks now. We were able, and I think on the next couple of slides, you can see we have these pack vans or these shipping containers down here that we already had at our other location. It was in a gravel parking lot. So we actually worked with the city street department and the county highway department, and they used big machines. All of that's on the next couple of slides too, to help us get those moved down. So here we are. This was probably Mike's favorite day at the office, I think. So it took an army to get that done, but we're really fortunate that we all work really well together. And now we move inside. I'll let Mike talk about this part. This is where his expertise comes in.
Yeah, well, with the new facility, it allowed us to put an actual drive-through facility. So everything's inside now. We still don't, well, we'll get to it in a picture there. That's one baler that the city gave
This
to
is our
us
new
that
one.
was, turned out to be non-functional. And the other baler is a functioning baler that was gifted to us. The non-functional baler we replaced with a remanufactured baler that we bought with the grant money. And it's been a lifesaver for us. We've got a brand new Toyota forklift. That is wonderful. We were using a Bobcat. We still have a Bobcat. We still have it. It's got forks on it, but it's big and it's unwieldy and it's dangerous to use inside a closed facility like that. So,
And this one's electric and our Bobcat is gas, so the fumes inside
Yeah.
were kind of bad too.
so
But
we still got our Bobcat. We keep it out. We could use it to grade the parking lot, smooth things out. The new forklift is fantastic and I'm so grateful for that.
yeah. And then, oh yeah, we did get we did purchase
We
scales
spent money to
too.
buy some portable scales to
Yeah.
weigh our baled cardboard and paper. We purchased, I don't know how many of these 16 bushel bins on wheels. And, we collect cardboard in those. We put them around in we probably got 10 or 12 locations now. Schools, most of the school corporations, we leave those. We've got a 16-foot box trailer. We run a cardboard route. and they put all their corrugated cardboard in it. Instead of going into the dumpster, they put it in there. We run around and we just swap bins out, roll them on a trailer, bring them in, bale them, and the cardboard's recycled. So we got probably 50 of those.
Yeah, we have a lot of those, because we also, there's a list of places where we have drop spots or pickup spots for
Yeah.
cardboard. The Knox County Jail is a big one. They feed a lot of people. They have a lot of cardboard. So,
700 meals a week.
yeah.
So,
Okay, so at the schools, what we did, because we do offer recycling to all the schools in Knox County. So we have, Republic Services actually sets up a container for them. But in order to keep our costs down, and the frequency of them filling that up with all their cardboard, we drop these carts off at the schools, at the kitchen, and they break down their boxes, put them in there, and then my guys go and they pick up the cardboard, so it's not going into the big recycling container outside. That helps the frequency and the cost for us. And so whatever we're making on the cardboard helps pay for those
it
containers.
helps defray the cost of the
Events, yeah.
recycling.
Doing milk runs like Silver Bay and you can.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then along the back wall, you can see a whole bunch there. That's where we sort out aluminum and steel cans. So when people drive in, and this is actually our drive recycling right back here. So it's pretty convenient. And the guys also from the jail, they asked us to take their steel cans too. So they have a lot of veggie and fruit.
Big
Pudding.
rubber tin
That's a
cans.
pudding they eat at the jail. And so they have all these
And
cans.
about 900 pounds a month of empty steel cans.
I was gonna ask you if you pick those up too.
Yeah, we pick those up. We get 10 cents a pound out of them. But, you know, our rate goes, it keeps it out of the landfills. And it pays for our fuel to go pick them up, but we take
And
them
at
to
the
local
jail,
salvage shops.
Yeah, they are really good about, they have the inmates doing a lot of the breaking down and the cleaning and in the kitchen of the cans and things. We haven't convinced the kitchen staff at the schools to do the cans yet, so I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
We're lucky to get the cardboard from them. We're lucky to get them to break it down.
yeah,
Put it in there, but they do,
they're getting better.
yeah, so.
You take your box trailer to these locations and you just switch out the cart?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just switch them
Yeah,
out.
it holds 8
It
carts.
holds 8 empty carts. We got a ramp on the back. We just roll 2 or 3 off, roll 2 or 3 on, whatever is there. So
We're hoping
it's a quick process.
Yeah, and when we started this, we didn't have as many spots to go to. So now we're looking at, hopefully in the future, we can swap that box trailer and ramp, because it's very cumbersome and heavy, this ramp. It's all I can do to get it by myself up and down. But we're hoping to swap that out for a really handy dandy, like truck with a lift gate one day.
That's a goal for the future.
Yes, so. All right, and then here's a better picture of our drive-through. And right now, because we don't have a compactor, we do have a contract with Republic Services. They're the only ones that service our area. I can't get Rumpke to come that far yet, but one day maybe. So we,
Republic does a nice job.
they do, but we do have,
How'd that feel, Craig?
I'm just saying, I didn't want you guys thinking I was partial, but, that's the only one we do have available, and they are great. Kenny DePass is our guy, and he's really great about, whatever we
They
need.
supply this big
Yes.
roll off there.
And it's really convenient, but we do have to have it inside the building, and it poses a little bit of a problem. We're waiting for a compactor to put outside eventually. This does the job though, but it is a kind of cumbersome to get it in and
Yeah,
out of the
it's,
building.
you know, it's on rollers luckily on the back end, and the big forklift you allowed us to buy. It's big enough, we get behind it, push it in front of the door, and then shove it out where they can get their chain and truck under it.
Yeah,
And we kind of got it down pat now. It's pretty simple to change it out. And the response has been great.
Yeah.
We're emptying it once a week now, so.
yeah. We started with, like I say, we would empty it, when we were open in the beginning, before our drive-through, we emptied it about once a week. Now we're
Once a
emptying it.
month,
Yeah, once a month. Then it was once a week. Now we're up to 4 times a month.
yeah,
Or I'm sorry,
So-
yeah,
yeah.
Once a
Some
month,
months more often. It
that's
just,
right. Yeah, now
yeah,
it's,
and we put, if we put mixed paper, newspapers, all the mixed paper, plastics, 1s, 2s, and 5s go in there. Aluminum cans, steel cans, you saw the pictures of the bins. So we could take those to salvage yard, sell them, and we keep 4 or 5, blue 16 bushel carts over there. We collect all the cardboard separate, so we can go down and bale that, so.
And, you know, the money that we're making from the other things offsets the cost of having the container plus all the ones at the schools and, I think you guys saw our budget is pretty tiny, so we had to figure it out somehow. And this is just sort of a list of all the places that we, pick up from right now, or they come to us. So we actually had some cards. Do you have those cards? One of the things we did was we did a cardboard, route, card that I gave out at the Chamber of Commerce. So it's like, you know, hey, if you have a small business or if you're a local business owner, bring us your cardboard. We'll take it for free, save you some money. And so we had a really good response from that. We just did that one in March, and Mike said that this month has been
Yeah,
pretty heavy.
we shipped out 45,000 pounds March 11th, and we track it. We weigh our bales and track it. As of yesterday, when we pulled a bale, we've got over 27,000 pounds of cardboard bales since March 11th. So, you know,
For us,
in a
that's a
big
lot.
city, it may not be much, but in Knox County, that's a huge figure.
Do you store your bales inside or in those storage?
That's what primarily the pack vans are for.
Oh, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah, and we actually did start, this is something we just started in December, I believe it was, late November, early December. We have a company called TOC Direct that does all the direct flyers, you know, like, I don't know, and at home it's on Tuesdays and you get all the flyers and ads from all the local businesses and things. So they would bring us loads and loads and loads of overprinted material, and we, at that time, were putting it in that big container that went to our public services. And so, you know, it's like, gosh, we have so much of it that let's separate it. We did try to bale it. It's a lot of that slick ad stuff. And one time we just,
Yeah,
it
it
was a
doesn't
mess.
fail.
So we tried, we tried. But so, you know, we're putting it in Gaylord's right now and we're gathering it up. So right now we have just under 26,000 pounds.
And actually, that has changed.
Did it?
Yesterday, TOC brought in 3 Gaylords worth. So we're at almost 28,000 pounds of paper.
And we did start taking hardback books because that was one of the things that we did not take before. So we're expanding in all the ways that we can. Then these are a picture of the beautiful bins that we were able to purchase. We actually got 2 different sets. This blue one is for all of our schools, and just basically if we have an event or anybody in the community, they think they need to have a nice recycling bin in their home in order to justify doing it for some reason. So we hand these out to them.
We have those out free of charge.
And then we have some just like it, but they're green, and those are for the city curbside because they need to be a different color. The city street department actually picks up the curbside recycling in Vincent. So we actually have 2 sets. And then we celebrated, and this is a few pictures from our American Recycles Day. Like you can see, we had a lot of participation, and we did an open house, and I felt like it was a success. Everybody has been very appreciative. We've had a lot of feedback from our community, businesses and residents of how appreciative they are to have this and how convenient it is. So yeah, we couldn't be happier with the results.
We're averaging through our drive-through 50 to 70 vehicles per day now coming through our drive-through, and it's growing every month.
And we are located in Vincennes, and I was just telling Sandy, the population of the city of Vincennes is about 16,000 people. Entire county-wide, which we do accept from the whole county, is 36,000 people for the whole county. So we think that we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So
37,000 people overall in Knox County approximately,
Yeah.
so
last time I checked, it was a
Yeah.
little less.
a little less than
People
that.
are moving out, but yeah. So, and then this is a few of our board members and all of our staff for our grand opening and ribbon cutting that we did, so.
You know, we run a pretty small staff. What do we have? 3 full-time and 3 part-time.
We actually, because of the influx of recycling that has happened because of the grant, and all of the renovations that we were able to do, we actually just in January bumped one guy up to full-time. So now we have 3 full-timers and 3 part-timers.
Michelle, when I was at the grand opening, I can't remember, I don't have that paper with me, but I think that your original grant, like, intention was to like maybe triple the collection
I think
amount.
maybe I was even saying double.
And then I think, right, you might have even said just double.
I think
I think the goal was double, and how much have you, like, I think you said you've like quadrupled.
Yeah, I mean, since we, it happened in the middle of the year, we went to year, but
Yeah.
since it was like in July, we did a rough estimate and we're I'm saying we're averaging probably because, I'd say in the big container inside, we went from like 1 ton a month to 4. And I mean, it takes a lot of plastic to make
Yeah.
4 tons of material.
Yeah.
And, so we're asking about that. And then, the cardboard has really increased. I mean, exponentially that for us,
Yeah.
that was, it's
Big
some days,
impact.
some days, and we did ask businesses, hey, if you have a lot, give us a heads up because we need to prepare for what we have,
Yeah.
because we do have such a small staff that, you get 1 truck in there and sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 vehicles all lined up, maybe 4 sometimes lined up waiting to get in, which that's super exciting for us.
When businesses come, is it just like pickup truck, like thrown in the
Sometimes-
back, or do they have
sometimes
to bail loads?
Or
They not bailed, but they'll bring gaylords.
24-foot box
Gaylords.
trucks with
Okay.
8 or 12
I was
gaylords.
wondering about the box truck. Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll use the forklift to get it out there.
yeah. We get a lot from Helping His Hands, a charity that runs a food bank. Goodwill, about once a month, they bring us a huge box truck load of cardboard. So,
And some of them will just leave their like their gaylords there and then.
yeah, we'll just unload it, work on it today, and they'll come back a day or 2 later to pick it up.
Because we just can't get them emptied that fast, right?
Now, the grant,
You can only sling
yeah.
cardboard so fast.
The grant didn't pay for this, but we had a household hazardous waste drop-off site, a lot of remote locations where we had those pack vans. When we opened the drive-through, we moved the pack vans over. We took our HHW drop-off and incorporated it into this building. Instead of being open 2 days per week, we're open 5 days a week now. So,
To be split in 2
yeah,
locations.
so it's just kind of one-stop shopping for everybody.
And that, we've gotten a lot of good feedback about that, the convenience of that, because, we actually just moved our hazmat trailer to the back of the.
Yeah, I
the
don't know if
new
you can
dock
see it,
is,
but it sits on the very back end of the concrete apron report out there, so.
Worked out great. Anybody have questions? Bill?
You guys need to be proud of what you guys did down there because you were granted the money and you guys are a success story as far as really making a difference in your community because this is huge for Knox County. I went to school down there
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
Knox County, I mean, it's not a very big community and for you guys to be doing what you're doing, that's a huge, huge difference for Knox County.
Thank you. Yeah, I told Mike on the way up here, I was like, man, I'm gonna try not to get emotional about this. Because as I was making this last night, I realized how far we have come and, I just was at a high school a couple weeks ago doing class programs and, I'm still battling wait, why don't you just burn your trash? Talk, so we're still battling that on a daily basis too. So this is pretty big for us. So,
Yeah, we're so grateful.
yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. for great.
Oh, and we appreciate Deanna working so well with us because our total operating budget is about $350,000 a year. So we've been able to do a lot with that. And that actually is the highest it's ever been this year. Usually it was a little under 300,000. When we started this, we were a little under $300,000 for our annual operating budget. And we had to do things in increments. We had to most probably do the whole thing and pay for it all in full. And then you get one reimbursement check at the end. And we did not. So we did all of the parking lot. Kearns Excavating actually did that. They did the driveway and the parking lot area and all the asphalt millings. They sent us the bill. We paid that and we got reimbursed for that. And we didn't start a new project until we got the reimbursement back.
Yeah.
And then we started on the dog. And then we did the same thing. So we actually had to do it about, I think we did 4 or 5 reimbursements. So we appreciate you guys working with us. We wouldn't have been able to do the initial payment without being able to do it in increments like that because
So it was $154,000 grant and you guys ended up using $130,000.
Yeah, so we got close.
Yeah. A couple, 3 years ago, when we first started planning this, we went to, was it NAMA? NAMA conference, it was in Denver. And I went to a workshop out there on one Friday. It was designing recycling HHW collection centers. We worked all day and, they were designing these centers, $2 million, $3 million. The instructor, I kept telling him what our budget was. He kept saying, it's not gonna happen. And I designed something and he would say, no, you gotta have that. I finally think I got it down to like $500,000 or $600,000. He said, I don't think you could do it for that. I was like, we're gonna do it for less than half that much. And we did.
We did, and that was before we even
Yeah.
had, the building, before we even purchased the building, and we were
Yeah.
very lucky, we actually purchased that giant building that sits on 2 acres for $200,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
So,
could buy it there.
now it needed a lot of love, and we put about $100,000 in, so once we got, in the building and had to do those renovations, then that didn't leave anything left to do what we needed to do for the recycling program, so we've kind of been doing things in phases. The first one was get in, have plumbing. That's important. The second was to get recycling going. Then third, we brought HHW down. Now my next plan is to have an education center on site because we do have an area that I can have schools. I'm still going out to all the schools all the time. And it seems like here lately. And so they are asking, they want to come take field trips. They want to see it because they've heard so many good things about it. So I'm hoping to get that going here in the next year. hopefully.
And a compactor eventually.
And a compactor,
So we
yes.
give her the big bit inside, we'll have a compactor.
Yeah.
Michelle, you had $150,000 and you spent 130, so 24,000 or. Yeah, 24,000, thank you. That we granted you, you didn't use. Does
Yeah,
that happen? No, I don't think that's.
we didn't, we've got one functioning baler that was donated to us.
We're pretty low maintenance in Knox
Yeah.
County.
We just couldn't see by to spending the money for another new baler that we didn't need it.
Well, and also if we spent your 24,000, we didn't have 24,000 extra to spend.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we had to be,
Got it.
careful about that too, but,
Got it.
cause we need a new roof. That's the next.
that's
thing.
probably the next step.
Yeah, we've been getting quotes for a new roof because we have some leaks. So,
You guys definitely do a lot with the little bit that you have.
She runs a pretty tight ship.
no, you can't have that. Yeah.
Have you thought about trying to work with whoever you're selling your cardboard to, working with them to maybe help finance a compactor?
I haven't thought of that. So maybe we could do that, yeah.
Well, I got a baler once by obligating our cardboard to go to that mill. And
Okay.
They paid for the baler.
Okay,
That's a good idea.
yeah, well, and we're open to all suggestions because obviously this is new to us. And so we're just, trying to piecemeal it. The next thing is glass recycling. I know that's hard everywhere, but we have so many people asking us about glass and we don't currently take glass because we just don't have an outlet for it. Being in Knox County, we're just far enough away from making it convenient to get anywhere
Yeah, we
else.
just don't have the budget to
Right.
haul glass all the way up here to
Right.
Andy, so.
And actually, in the middle of all of this, you guys will love this, Debbie already knows, but we actually lost $40,000 worth of our funding. Because of a glitch that happened at the auditor's office. We operate on a user fee. So each parcel, each property in Knox County is assessed a user fee for solid waste. It's $20 per year for all the things that we do per parcel or per house or business. So there was a little glitch, little hiccup in the auditor's office. They actually do that process, or they did, of the billing on the property tax bill. They collect it for us. They distribute it to us twice a year. So that year we were way under budget to get everything done. So in the middle of all this, we did have that problem going on at the same time. So I think we did fairly well. It's for considering. So yeah, we had to hold on to our HHW for a little longer than we needed to,
We
but
held on to it for a year.
we got it shipped out in January. So yeah.
40,000 is a lot when your
It,
operating
yes,
budget's only 300.
yes.
Yeah.
It was, and, you know, one of the things that the first thing that we ended up cutting was the last thing that we added to our expenses, which was paying for Vincent's city curbside pickup. That usually ran about $10,000. So the city employees, they pick it up in their truck, they take it to the transfer station. And then we would get the bill. So that was the first thing that we cut. And then we had to cut them off of HHW just to
Yeah.
make things, and it was already a pretty tight budget, but we made it work, so.
Any other questions?
All
Well,
right,
congratulations.
thank you so
You've
much.
done a
Yeah.
wonderful job. Keep
We're
up
very
the good work.
appreciative.
Thank
If you're ever in the neck of the woods, come see us.
Next item on the agenda is the 2024 RMDB grant. We have some process changes that I believe we need to go over. Is that correct, Deanna?
Yeah, yep. So, for fiscal year 25, our next round of RMDP grants, I have first, the projected timeline is, you guys approve the guidelines today. And we hopefully will get everything posted by next week and open the round, next Wednesday, May 1st. I have May 2nd here. And then, we give 6 weeks for them to do the proposals. So a deadline for proposal submissions will be June 13th. And then we have the same timeline as we usually do, where we'll approve those awards on that October 24th board meeting, with us, completing contracts January, February of 2025. So I don't anticipate us having any problems with that timeline. Funding, I don't propose any changes towards our funding. Usually we have a minimum 50,000 to 500,000 available for each individual to request. That's a 50% cash match. So minimum project cost of $100,000. I'm proposing we keep that. It seems to be working well for us. Eligibility. In previous years, we've had municipalities, solid waste management districts, nonprofit organizations, and public and private businesses. This year, I had a question arise of a little bit of interest. It's just something that never occurred to me, but a university asked about if they are eligible, and they said, we're a nonprofit. Pointed that out. So I know a few years back, we removed schools and universities. We used to list them out as eligible. And we removed them because we then had the community recycling grants. In most schools, projects were a little bit smaller scale, more community-based, and fit better under those community recycling grants. But with that consideration, we have funded like Purdue University as an example with their anaerobic digester and collecting food waste, which is a bigger $100,000 project easily. So I was proposing we go ahead and add higher education institutions back into the eligibility, just to provide a little clarification. Obviously, under nonprofits, they could still apply. But I think this provides a little bit more clarification for them who's eligible. And then if it's a private university as well, they'd be eligible under that. So I don't know if we have any discussion around that.
Anybody object to putting universities back in the pool of eligible?
Just a comment or question. If a university, higher education, can they submit the same project on multiple grants? Could they get money from the community grant plus money?
Not on the same project, but
Okay.
on different projects. Yes, they can have both a community recycling grant and a
But it
recycling
have to be
market.
different, totally different projects, totally different goals, totally different end games.
I know we have never specified that. I wouldn't say it'd have to be a different,
It can be the same project, but it can't be the same funding for components of the same.
Right, they can't like use it as a cash match or,
Right.
but it could be the same larger project.
We
Go.
have,
They could pay for different
Yeah.
things.
we have had people apply and they have both a CRGP grant and an RDP grant. The different components of the entire scope of the project were under each one of those. Yes.
Yeah. So like if they wanted to do like an education outreach component to a project, they could potentially ask for money under
And that-
CRGP.
And that's
If
usually.
they want to buy equipment or something, they could come to you guys and ask for that. So that's kind of how they could potentially do that. I
Yeah,
think.
for example, that Floyd County Solid Waste Management District, the board just awarded them funding this last October for the drop-off containers, trailers, for the recycling, community recycling events. And they then applied for the community recycling grant and received funding for education plan and outreach, for those events. So,
Most universities that will apply for both, or if they apply for CRGP, there's a limit of the CRGP grant of $50,000.
yeah. Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and probably add them back in.
Sure.
And then, as part of our evaluation criteria, we do identify that we may, award additional funding for priority materials. Plastics, mixed glass, organics, and electronics were identified that those were pulled out from one of our strategic planning meetings, is it already a few years ago? I don't think we had any last year, so the year before. I think that just having that in there, as some incentive for those materials is still good. And if you had a chance to look over the guidelines, I just highlighted changes in red. Some of the little things that I did add to the guidelines in the application is the cover page is a state form that collects their identifying information. I also added the budget table to that page because I wasn't always getting the budget table or in the format that I'd like to see it in. And added clearer instructions because last year was the first web submission form and it's a little confusing when you fill out this whole web form, which is the cover page. And then you have to attach the proposal still, right? So I tried to make that a little bit clearer for people to understand that the proposal is a big separate document that requires all these other additional information. I do plan on doing a Q&A session this year to try to help people get that scheduled somewhere in there before the final grants to try to help with the proposal process as well. Final thing. We talked about scoring. I like how it is weighted now. I looked at the scoring and so I still want to keep the same categories and weights, but to make it a little bit clearer on us, this is what the Department of Education does, and I think why did I say education? Administration. So for like our federal grants, when we're doing an RFP on the state level, when we score it, they're weighted, but everybody scores each category at 0 to 4. So 4 would be meets all criteria, goes above and beyond. 3 would be meets, and then, so 0 is absolutely like not meeting what we asked you to do. So I think if we score that way with a 0 to 4, but each category is still weighted the same as it is now. So it's just a calculation that I do on the Excel sheet. That's my proposal for how we're going to do scoring this year. So, any other comments, questions, suggestions?
I have a question because I don't remember, in thinking back about the scoring. How do you look at how the IDEM scores and then the board scores?
So we use the same scoring criteria, and
But do you put those together?
usually what I provide to the board is a metrics where you can see our averages, your guys' averages, and then combined average.
Okay.
So I provide all three,
Okay.
yeah.
How's item weighted on that score? Third or?
I don't know that it's weighted.
So final decision, would it be the same as RMS?
As to how they're ranked, as to how the different projects are ranked. Because I remember thinking
Right.
there was something in that last time, and I don't know, I guess maybe I hadn't looked at.
So there were
Both of
three,
them
there,
together
right,
or
there were,
something?
I mean, you had all three to choose. I think what happened last year is we did, the final rankings were the average of put the item and board scores together. And that's how we looked at the rankings last year.
Talking about, because we sat next to each other.
Yeah.
too, And I think I made a comment to you about, that it was higher up and we said, well, the board actually ranked that one lower, just
Right.
us.
Yes,
Items, scores, like bumped it up higher when you blended them together, so.
yes, thank you for helping me
Yeah.
remember that. I knew there was
Yeah.
something, and so, yeah,
So
when I,
there-
yeah.
I guess to answer the question, I mean, there's not, and Deanna was alluding to that, there's not like a weight to our internal item
Both
scores.
sides are basically even.
Yeah,
But you
Yeah,
just
I mean,
average them.
Really, our scores are, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, are more of a recommendation to the board. You guys are the decision maker on who is awarded what, so
and
there
you can,
really isn't a weight.
and you can
to our
determine, like, when you are doing them this October, if you want to just look at the rankings of your scores. And then, if you see that there's one particular or item staff score that we had vastly different and you want to discuss it, I mean, it's up to the board how they want to rank them. They don't have to use the average of item and the board. They could use the board average and rank them that way. It's kind of a call on your guys' part. Go ahead, Kathy.
So I think to further your point, how many board scores are there and how many item scores are there?
Right, so 9 board scores, nine voting board members. And we usually have, our staff is me, Pat, Jennifer, 4. Jacob, if it's
So,
electronic, so
To
there may
get
be
back to
some
the
that have
question
4 or
of
5.
weighting, it's just how many go
Yeah.
into that mix of average.
Right.
And the denominator is the board plus item.
Yeah, good point.
So they will, kind of hindsight.
And how much money is available again this year?
2 million.
I really don't believe we have a problem with the scoring and how we blend it. The weighting, if you will, of the two averages. Sometimes it's enlightening to see how items scores project. And when my personal opinion is that it may not be there or it may be higher. So it is thought provoking. So I think it's good information to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, you're exactly right, this last round, there was a classic example of where the items scored very differently than the board
Yeah.
did. And that was ranked very differently if you just compared the two. So,
Which isn't a bad thing.
no,
like
but
you
you guys had different insight than we did. And really, I mean, like, that's what influenced it, is that there was some experience and background that you understood the project in a different way than we were able to. And I think that's the importance of having both scores, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so I just need to make sure I look at the blended score and not just
The boards.
Yeah, that was my mistake, but it was enlightening.
Well,
I wouldn't call it a mistake.
No, I wouldn't either. I would say that it highlights some of the technical expertise on the board and where we see there's a discrepancy between the item scores. I think that's a great point for discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the one thing that the first round does, or the IDEM team does, is scrub out the qualified and unqualified.
That helps us a lot. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a big thing for me when I start going down through, I'm like, okay, I want to look at this and it makes sense. So I mean, it's, but it's also, when you got 13 people, you got 9 of us looking at it, and then you got the Deanna's team looking at it. It's like, okay, hey, there's a good compromise between all 13, because then you've got a good set of data points to really look at and say, yes, no, maybe, or hey, do they get the full amount, things of that nature. So it's a good group of people, and it's really came together. I mean, this is the third round of voting that I've had, and it's gotten better every year of understanding it. So I think we're making progress from that standpoint as a group going together.
And even within item, we don't always agree on our scoring. I mean, we come together, we score, and then we come together as well and discuss our scores. And sometimes there is definitely a debate about like how we scored things, so.
It's true, because Tom is very generous.
Yeah.
It should be funded.
And then I'm very stingy. I don't want to give anyone.
Well, you're fine.
So with that, I think we just need to say, like, approve the changes, proposed changes for this year.
Now, you mentioned date on your page says May 2nd. Did you want that to be May 1st?
Yeah, I'm gonna change that.
So that needs to be, so we need to make note of that. The May 1st, June 13th, October 24th, and flip the page here. Contract approval, obviously, January, February 25. So do we need to vote on those dates and the changes, Deanna?
Yes.
All right, are there any questions for Deanna prior to calling for the vote?
Did it end up just being correcting the May 1st date and then adding language to include higher institutions as eligible?
Yes.
Okay, with those two changes,
I'm just gonna, sorry. I just thought as I was like, going through, and we did this for the last grant round, but I added it to the guidelines for clarification. I did extend the project dates to 18 months versus 12 months. Helped us just with management, to make sure that the projects are not only purchased, but delivered and installed as well before that grant closes out.
I think that's reasonable with some of the deliveries that we've been experiencing.
Reduces our administrative.
We don't have to do
headaches
as
with
many.
amendments and
Yeah.
extensions. That could be a time consuming process for everybody involved.
Good. All right, carrying on with the changes and whatnot, do I have a motion to approve the dates, the inclusion of the higher institutions, and the extension to 18 months on the projects?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Weiger, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hackman. Any discussion? Yeah. Roll call vote, and Ms. Weiger,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
Mr. Curran,
Yes.
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hackman, or Ms. Hackman.
Yes.
I used to call her Mr. because I used to work for her. Ms. Whitehead.
Yes.
All right, I vote yes. Do we have anybody online?
I don't.
With that, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay,
So Central Indiana Waste Diversion pilot projects, or I call them pilots, they're not pilots anymore. Those also are, gonna start grant round July 1st, so we need to approve the guidelines for those at today's meeting as well. So as a reminder, of the timeline for the Central Indiana projects, then those are written into statute. So those are kind of hard there. Monday, July 1st, 2024, the applications will become available. I may post them earlier, but that's, our official start date. Application submission deadline of October 1st. And then we would provide recommendations to the board by December 1st, And the board would then, since that's December 1st of 2024, board would award those the following board meeting, end of January is usually when that typically happens, 2025. With a contract approval, 3 months, target date of 3 months later, April and May of 2025. So one thing that I think that we can talk about this go round is, before we didn't have a maximum that they could ask for funding. And this time we're gonna have the 2 million plus the 2.7 million that we did not award in the first round. So that's 4.7 million available total funding. And I don't believe there's anywhere that says we can't set a maximum limit. So I'm wondering if we want to set like 2 million as a total requested funding, or if we want to just leave it open-ended and they can request the full amount available.
Do we still have the ability to go back and say, hey, we're not gonna grant the full 4.7 to you because you asked for it, we're only gonna give you 1 million so we can take care of everybody?
And keep in mind, these projects are a little different. I mean, I think we don't necessarily want to spread the wealth, right? We want to have the most impact in central Indiana.
Problem when we leave it open to the entire amount. Someone develops a program that's going to take up $4.7 million, a lot of effort and time that goes into that. And then they come in here and we say, we're only gonna give you $1 million. Can you get by with $1 million? So how do they par down their project to take it from 4.7 to $1 million? And that's one of the reasons I like the cap of 2 million. So they can plan on a $2 million program. If it's viable, they're awarded, they can complete it. We can still ask if they want to, take some components out for a lesser amount. What's the board's pleasure on that? It's just my opinion.
That has the comment too.
I was gonna say, also the board can consider, the first round, there was no match. So they did come in with 3-4, millions, because there wasn't a match required from their end. You guys set a match for this round. So there is that 50% match, so if they come in with a much higher.
On the central? I didn't think that the central had a match.
It did in the first round, but this round, you guys.
It was really.
To do that,
And then Cascade was.
50% is what we end up doing, requirements, right?
I thought that.
I know it sounded wrong to me.
How the
yesterday,
statute
too, I
passed.
was about it.
With legislation said it was,
Yeah.
could be wrong.
So I think both grants are set now 50% like that.
Correct, the RDP always have 50% match, and then for this second round, the board discussed it, am I right?
Yes,
Yeah, the board
yes.
discussed it and set 50%.
It's on my, I probably should have brought that one up first before we talked about this one, or we can talk about them in conjunction. Because the board can determine a different cash match at this point too, but the statute does say there must be a cash match this grant round, in the second round. And the board did determine, it was probably close to a year ago already, that 50%. But that, I mean, as we're discussing these guidelines today, if you guys want to vote on a different cash match, we can do that as well. So, but that is, I actually was thinking that as well when you brought that up. Thank you. You want to think about that total project cost, that they have to provide a cash match this time.
So to respond to Bruce's point, I don't know what dollar amount or threshold suddenly becomes too onerous to say, can you modify that? So I don't know that I necessarily agree that, 2 million, suddenly it's okay to say, can you take 1 million versus 4 million? Well, can you take 3?
It's hard
totally hear your point about it. It is a lot of work to put together, budget, the more work goes into it. And I respect that, but I also don't want to miss some potentially really amazing projects just because they're bigger than 2 million.
I think, it's always something I think that's always challenging for the board as well, is because we want to do projects that may not happen without the benefit of the grant funding, right? We don't want to just help people who are going to do the project anyways necessarily, because that's not, you know, building the recycling market beyond what it would otherwise. So I think, and I don't know, just keep that in the back of your mind too. Some of these projects, if they're multi-million-dollar projects, they may be moving forward, whether we grant them 1 million or 2 million or nothing.
Well, and I think that was part of the discussion, if I recall, when we were discussing the match
Yeah.
as well. And I don't know that I necessarily want to open that can of worms again, but
Well, and we had the one project from the first round that ended up not going forward. After you guys had awarded it, I think asked them to take less, and so you don't want to be in that position either necessarily. I mean, but that's your decision to make, just throwing that out there for you to chew on.
well, and it's certainly if the board says, you know, in a question, would you be able to move forward if we gave you less and they say no, it's still then our opportunity to say, is it worth funding the full amount they're requesting or not?
I still think it's a valid question to ask.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of times, you know,
They're asking for that much because they need.
they need it.
Yeah.
If somebody, if it's something really dynamic.
Yeah.
That wants to come into the state and they need 4 million. Still gonna have to come up with 2 million match, so that would be a limiting factor right there. So I'm, personally, I'm not setting a minimum.
So you want to leave it open to the total 4.7?
Just personally, I think, because you never know.
You got a big program you're gonna bring up?
After
That's my inclination as well, is we're really looking for some innovation. And so I would rather leave it without a cap so that maybe we don't get anything more than 2 million requests, but maybe we do.
Have we ever felt, maybe we just haven't had that dynamic of a program come to us where we wanted to fund them the entire amount? I feel like as a board, we've always wanted to fund as many projects as we could, just throwing that out there.
I think at times we feel obligated to fund as many projects as we can. Is that our true desire or our obligation speaking? And someone brought in a project that's going to change the world and they needed 4.7 million and they were gonna match it with 4.7 million. I would be behind it 100%.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Just, again, I'm speaking from my personal opinion.
And that's my feeling too.
Do we need a minimum project cost? We didn't have one last round and it wasn't a concern. It didn't become an issue, but just throwing that out there too, if we wanted that, like, it must be $1 million. I don't know, $500,000, you know, with the $500,000 cash match or.
I think if we're gonna have any truly impactful programs, they're going to be of $1 million range. So it might not be a bad idea to consider $500,000 minimum grant. And because we'll have 500,000 matching, put $1 million into a project.
I think that sounds really realistic. That way it makes it easy for people who are looking at this for the first time to quickly say, oh, this is bigger than what we're planning.
Yeah,
It makes our job, selection committee easier.
yeah.
It's hard to compare those small projects.
You know, probably a bad idea to have them out for this, because we do, you know, you guys have the recycling market development program that would fund smaller projects.
I didn't realize we didn't have a minimum.
Honestly, as we were talking, it had occurred to me, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Because we did have some small proposals.
restrictions this time around.
What's that?
What are the geographic restrictions.
Yes. Yeah, so let me go ahead and the other things that will be in this guidelines based on the statutes, Marion County and the 8 surrounding donut counties are all included this time. We will be private sector only. That did not get removed from the statute. So only private sectors will be able to apply. And interesting enough, in there, they added a 4-year project length. 4-year term for their project instead of the 2 that was 2 or 3. That was. So those were the additional changes to the guidelines that were based on what was written in the new legislation.
Did you say a minimum for a year?
No, just like total project length cannot exceed 4 years.
Oh, it can't exceed.
But that's still a long time usually.
It is.
To fund a project. Maybe.
So Deanna, we are going to vote on the award of these projects, or does it go back to
It's you guys.
just us?
Yeah. This one, we don't even score. We'll review them and we'll provide feedback and recommendations. But we don't score.
Any other questions? Do we need a motion on or a vote on this one as well?
Yes.
I would move to add a minimum project size of 500,000.
All right,
I kind of like to say, just let it see what we get. Leave it as is, leave no minimum, leave no maximum, let's see what comes in. We can use that as a grade tool of what our experiences are, what we know is realistic on what can bring the most impact. That's my opinion.
I would concur.
any other thoughts? Good to have opposing views. Hearing that, did you make a motion, Kelly?
I did make a motion for
I'll
500.
second her.
So Kelly has made a motion to have a 500,000 minimum, and Debbie has seconded the motion. Is that correct, Debbie? Now, any additional discussion? Hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Uyger,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Prefer not.
Mr. Guerin,
No,
Ms. Henry,
No.
Mr. Lutz.
No.
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead.
Yes.
Oh, I do believe the nose took it, this one.
Is it tied?
What is yours?
No, I guess it's my vote. Well, the yeses have it done.
you don't want arm wrestle, Bruce?
No.
So what was your vote?
She'll take.
My vote is yes.
That's a
So it's-
tie. That's a tie. 4-4.
So then pass the fails.
Who are we missing?
Matt Gratz. He was not able to attend.
So where does the stalemate go?
It's a loss for ties.
Ties are just,
Ties are ties.
I think this is the first time, the whole time I've been on this board.
Yeah.
well, we can move on and see if there's anything we can agree on.
So I'll make a motion that we have no min, no max.
Is there a motion required for that?
I don't know.
That's where it's now, isn't it?
That's what it is now.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, then, leave it as a slither idea, move on.
Well,
Or unless you want to.
my only thought was, I believe I'm recalling correctly that it was this one, that there were some smaller businesses that, put a lot of effort into applying for this. And I just don't know that it's, I don't know, fair that they,
I understand and I hear you, Kelly. My only point would be is if they have that energy and that enthusiasm, I'd love to hear it.
And I don't. wish
It would,
that-
like, i.e., I'll give you an example, the one that I think we all thought would have the true kind of the original one, the true part of the project was, if you remember when they brought the portable containers, and I thought that thing, the innovation, the coolness of that, but the reality of, durability and making it happen was something that kind of like to hear that, of the thoughts behind of, it brings up discussion, brings up kind of ideas.
yeah, and I guess maybe the match will also automatically filter out some of
There you
the
Yeah.
smaller ones that aren't quite ready for prime time.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to have no cap and no minimum.
I don't think there needs to be a motion as well.
That's just the way it's written
Yeah.
currently.
They can move on to the business. Great.
But do we need to approve?
Do we need to approve this, Dan?
Yes.
So do I have a motion to approve the guidelines as written?
I'll make a motion to approve the guidelines as written.
Mr. Lutz, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Wait a second. In the sorry. In the guidelines, I did add the 2 million. I forget. The 2 million is in there as a maximum, I think. So you guys want to remove that, right? Yep. In the guidelines as written, I have eligible candidates may seek funding up to 2 million.
So we have to make a motion to take that out.
Yeah.
Make it to the full amount.
Well, I would move to remove the cap.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Weir, second by Mr. Lutz, to remove the $2 million cap. Any additional discussion needed? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Now, with that done, do we have a motion to approve the guidelines as written with the removal of the $2 million cap?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Guerin, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Whitehead. Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, do I have Ms. Weger,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. I vote yes. So the guidelines for the Central Waste Diversion Project are approved.
No minimum.
We're moving right down the agenda here. Number 6, we have the July meeting planning discussion. Can you talk about what we're gonna do in July?
Yeah, so July is kind of that flexible one where we don't normally have to award grants or, prove too much of anything. In past years, we've used it as an opportunity to do site visits and visit grantee facility. But I also wanted to propose as another option, strategic planning session, as I actually mentioned just a little bit ago. We haven't had one in almost 2 years. There may be opportunities at that to discuss, like the economic development or economic impact report. That's a little bit dated already now, right? So is there an opportunity to have another study conducted across the state that the board could fund, or, discuss priority materials again and the board's impact and revisit some of those priorities that we set back at our last strategic planning meeting. So that's another idea that we could do for July, or I'm open to other suggestions as well from the board, but I want this to kind of be what you want and what you think you get the most benefit out of. So
When was our last it feels like it was just 2 years ago.
I think it was 2
It was
years.
in this room.
It was in this room, that's good.
So we know it wasn't the government center downtown.
That's true. It feels.
It was a January meeting, and I think it was January of, it would have been 22 maybe? I don't know.
Maybe if we do it in July and we go to Carl's basement, and maybe there's an Indians game afterwards, we can head over to the.
Our basement. You guys know when I want to go to that basement. Sorry.
Trying to give you a light on that.
The nice thing about the planning meetings, it gives us the opportunity to share concepts, ideas, developments in the industry. And allows us as a board to share and create some new ideas, possibly goals. So I would hope that we would want to continue to learn. And I think it's important for us to be on the cutting edge of what's going on.
It was January 2022.
Has there, I guess this is a question to the board, has there been a lot of change that you've seen in the last 2 years that we need to spend some time discussing? Technologically or industry-wise?
When did they start going more mixed paper, Craig? 2 years ago?
That was when they started, 15, 16, the advent of smartphones, the advent of Instagram, Facebook, everything is, when does news need to be seen? When do you need to see the next score? When do you want to see the next poll? Do you wait for the newspaper, or do you jump on your phone and your tablet and your computer? That was the advent of the change in mixed paper. What we're seeing more and more of in industry is plastics. How are we, and as the national thing of plastics coming, we're seeing more and more virgin plastic that's going to come into market than what is being recycled nationally right now. How do we handle that? How do we cover that and still be able to not have to use virgin plastic and use recycled plastic, and how do we manage that? The other thing that's coming in the industry is the challenge. I mean, we talk about, I think I love the idea of, I wrote the note down, I kind of stole it from you all, of recycling awareness, using that as a code word, but it's that knowledge of the do's and the don'ts, the simple things of the basics of education. How do we get that in a clean, simple, durable education that is good for all? So when, folks are in Northwest Indiana can move to Knox County and Vincennes and gain that, it's still the same, or it's a light message, or it's a simple message. But also understand that we all have to do it right to help the economics and the durability of recycling, because I think there's a real miss in the reality and the true cost to recycle. It's not cheap. We talk about it all the time. How much cost did it take just to open up the facility before you could accept 1 pound of cardboard? And I think the misnomer back is when, and our industry, I'll own it. I wasn't in the industry at the time, but when recycling first started, it was a net neutral. It was a zero cost to public, and that's a misnomer. That is truly, it's expensive to recycle, but it's the right thing to do. So I'll stop on my there and all.
Now you're right on top of your soapbox.
You gave me the mic, so but I think that is, I think that's important, because contamination is still very, very real. And unfortunately, we're not seeing it go down. Our national average is, 39 to 41, 42%, and that's real. Now, modern day centers are able to handle more and process more, but the in feed of 40 to 42% to try to get an outbound feed is a challenge.
So are there trends since our last strategy session in the last 2 years that are notable enough that we need to really dig into as a board?
There are a couple of areas, and I don't know how that can become involved, what we're doing. But plastics, the sloughing off of nanoparticles from plastic products. I've been reading an article this last week. It's astounding how much contamination of these particles you can't see that are in our bodies right now. And the unknown health impacts that's causing. And so I'm not quite sure what kind of project could come to us that would deal with that issue. But it's a serious one. And the other one is forever chemicals. Waste industry was aware of PFAS and all other ramifications several years ago. And now you begin to see the public at large understanding what PFAS is and the ramifications. And I'm not quite sure. You start collecting fire retardants. But I'm not sure how that can evolve and impact what we're doing. But there are some issues out there that we're not dealing with that we may have to deal with at some point. Well, I think a planning session is good.
I mean, within the electronic industry, the biggest one we're hitting with, I know sometimes that you guys create is the battery part.
Batteries huge, yeah.
Because lithium is taking everything over, and now lithium has figured out, okay, hey, how do I make it to look like it was the old alkaline AA?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you've got, okay, we got compactor fire because someone to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had one, I know you guys ran into them, some of the other local people have too. I mean, it's one of those things where it's ever changing, and we've got a lot of partners on the ERI side, the Redwoods of the world, and people of that nature that, you know, we partnered with, but it's an ever changing thing to where I don't know if there's a lot of information out there to the consumer, going back to what Craig was talking about. I think we need to be better educated on the consumer side of how dangerous that lithium really is and can be, because all of us have one in our pocket. All of us, you know, carry it around. Well, next thing you know, it swells in our laptop and it's in our case, and our laptop case is on fire. I mean, it's just, that's just another topic from that standpoint that I know that we are dealing with within our industry. It's very, very big right now. We're trying to get our arms around it.
Deanna, did you say that the materials, well, I forget what the wording was, but the materials priority included electronics,
Yeah,
but not batteries?
not
wouldn't
batteries.
be included in that.
If batteries are a subset to that is the way you got it classified. That's the way I mean, it's just a part of it.
So when we talked about our priority list, there was plastics, cardboard, e-waste, and organics. And last year I looked at the grants that we did not consider, and most of them were for organics. So maybe our list of priorities isn't where it should be. Maybe that either we're not looking at organics close enough, or maybe it shouldn't be on the list. I don't know.
I don't know that we had a lot of organic projects apply last year, did
We
we?
had a few, and we didn't fund anything that had to do with organics, which, I mean, is fine. We had priorities
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we felt were more important, but maybe looking at the list of priorities a little bit closer would be a good thing, which, you know, you guys just emphasized the PFAS and the lithium batteries, you know, they moved to the top of the priority list.
Well, I think this discussion that we're having kind of leads us to a planning session.
Okay. Pat, but did you have something to
I
add?
was gonna say, we could also consider, bringing in, looking for speakers to come in to talk about certain topics, to give you guys more information on these emerging topics. We can see if we can get someone to come in to talk about batteries, you know, to talk about, what other topics may be of interest. Some of the other things that's going on, a lot that may eventually impact us is EPR, extended producer responsibilities. A lot of states are looking at rulemakings that involve. I mean, how many states now are looking at that? I mean, it may become something that, I don't know how many of you on top of the rulemaking that's going on the national or other state, level by other states or federal government. But there's some topics, if there's topics of interest, we can look at bringing those to that meeting as well. Getting speakers to come in to share information on some of those topics as part of that planning session.
Does anyone know what I know there was a bill for a study on solar PV recycling. I don't know what the update is on that.
Actually, Tom sits on that
Yeah.
committee. I think they're just wrapping up the report right now.
Yeah, that's due to the legislators in October. So I did the generator in the report at the legislators' request. And so we are getting to have that finalized and presented. So we're on the last efforts of that.
So would that not be ready to share anything about that until after that's shared in October? I mean, to share that in July or to speak?
Yes, it would be, latter part of towards the fall before that report is ready to be released.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, so I was just gonna say, so it sounds like of what we've discussed so far, batteries or electronics would definitely be an area. I don't know if, while PFAS is very important, I don't know how that applies to recycling. I haven't heard anything about PFAS and recycling. So I don't know if that is off topic for our conversations.
I don't know, it's so prevalent and
I know the
There's the
waste
unknown.
industry in general is concerned, but that's more for final disposal.
And just what Craig was saying about just plastics in general, period, and how we deal with them. And I totally agree with Pat. That's exactly what I was going to ask, is if maybe we could have some speakers come in, because I think that would be beneficial to have some industry experts in those fields.
I mean, if it's just a 10-minute talk from on
Yeah.
several, like 4 or 5 different topics, but I think us getting together and trying to get it more narrowed down, I think it'll even tie us tighter as a group from that standpoint too, by gaining some of this knowledge that helps the people when they do bring the grants.
So are we thinking strategic planning session with speakers? Are we thinking just maybe some, educational session with speakers? Or how do you kind of want that to look, I guess?
I will not be here, just, I will be in South Korea.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
Not going to the rainforest this year.
That's work.
There's a couple people with hands raised.
Oh. Thank you. Representative Arrington, if you want to unmute yourself and provide.
Sure. I wanted to add to the discussion about speakers because we had a bill in the Environmental Affairs Committee this year dealing with PFAS. And Representative Bauer brought in some top-notch experts. One of them was from Notre Dame, and I forget where the other one was, but I believe we have some people who are really at the top of this game right here in Indiana that we could get to come.
That's great. Yeah. And if you have those resources to share, I definitely take those.
Shall we see the other one was from?
I can do those two right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then we had another hand raised online. I believe it's a Teddy Mapika. You wanted to unmute yourself. Did you have a comment?
Hi. So the reason I came out here to view this is because I was interested in the contamination with recycling and how much it's costing to get that removed. And I was just curious on because if that relates to the closing of recycling centers, because I know that 25% of recycling plants across the country have been closing down because of the price of removing contaminants. So I was wondering if that relates to to the closing of recycling centers. Because I've had in my area, which I live in North Manchester, around my area, a lot of closings of recycling centers.
Yeah, I don't think we have a ready answer for that. I think, maybe your situation is a little bit different because it's probably drop-off centers and recycling solid waste management districts that are closing that kind of reflects on like not counting, you know, an instance where their budgets are very small. And it's so they're not dealing with having to pay for the contamination or clearing the contamination, but their cost to they provide that recycling and handle the recycling goes up because of that contamination rate at the drop-off site. So I'm happy to, if you want, I know, Teddy, you have my email since you asked for this team when we can take this conversation offline, and I can provide a little bit more insight and feedback at that point.
Pat mentioned
I think that, and it's a past comment to us and a producer responsibility and other policies, but something that maybe could be beneficial for the board to look at just policies in general. And if the board wants to make any, at least policy recommendations, legislature, I think you guys are in place, you're a government appointed, or at least, you know, provide that insight and feedback to the legislature when it comes to policies in Indiana. Another opportunity.
So I think the consensus is we have a planning session with speakers.
Okay.
Man, is that all right? Do I speak on behalf of the board?
Yes.
maybe in half where we have time for discussion and time for speakers, kind of, like I said.
Snacks.
I like snacks.
Bruce is baking cookies.
Pop-Tarts. It'll be Pop-Tarts.
Very.
plant a seed along that line too, because Tom's been heavily involved with collecting, recycling information. And what's been omitted from that original legislation was the commercial sector. And I'm not sure what kind of role we can play with that, but that needs to be revisited and include those individuals and requiring that they submit information.
Big challenge, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that we have that planned out. Work for me to get that organized.
No pressure.
Obviously, the item 7 is the remaining dates on the calendar and our schedule. We have with the dates that we approved. And I think looking back, the big date on our annual October, yes, October 24th will be our award meeting for the normal grant round. So
I just wanted to also just bring up, I still have 2 RMDP portfolios left that I did not distribute. So if anybody is interested in having one of those, I do have some available. So.
is there any other business we need to discuss, Deanna?
I think we covered it.
Anybody in the audience who wants to bring up any issues for discussion? Pat, any words of wisdom?
That's that.
Snacks are good.
Amen.
Pat wants key lime pie.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Lutz, second.
Second.
Mr. Guerin, seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Safe travels to all. Look forward to the planning session. Educate us. And the grant rounds are gonna be fun.
If any of you guys have other suggestions of people to bring in for that education program, share those with me.
Educate you.